titled "It is a surprise. It will be a surprise if the present generation doesn't get diabetes." The reason I say is our lifestyle is such. You see, most of us, the physical activities have gone down, whatever the age group that may be. The physical activities have gone down, and the consumption of sugar and carbohydrates remains the same. I was watching one video of one podcast of Marco. They are like the elite core of the armed forces, very specialized in their trade, the more toughest we can say. So in that, the person was saying that there are days when they have to do a lot of physical work, very intensive work, like what if walk 40 kilometers and carrying a lot of weapon and a lot of weight and in the forest in mountainous areas for their various exercise and training. So there are days when they have to do extensive physical work, and then there are days when they are not doing any physical work. They are just stationed in a place, guarding or just resting. So he says the difference in both the days, the day when they are doing a lot of physical work, excess physical work, they actually eat a lot because you need so much energy, and especially if it's a terrain is a mountainous terrain, you have to climb the mountain carrying a lot of stuff, weapons and food and other equipments, etc. So you need a lot of energy and you need a lot of quick energy. So he says on those days they take a lot of sugar and they take a lot of carbohydrates, because sugar, carbohydrates, they give you energy very instantly, right? So he says that like we have like 6 cups of tea and each cup has like 3 scoops of sugar and milk and a lot of carbohydrates, rice, chapati and all that, on the days when there's a physical activity is more. On the other hand side, when the days where there's not a lot of physical activity, when they're doing a desk job, sitting in one place or just not moving a lot of, so he says on those days they just eat one meal and they don't drink tea or no sugar, very less carb, and just one meal when there's no physical activity. When there's physical activity, they eat like 3 times that or more than that, right? So what we have to understand from this is when we do a lot of physical activity, then it's okay to consume carbohydrates. It's okay to consume maida, sugar, right? Uh, but if you're not doing the physical activity and still taking the same amount of carbohydrates and maida and oil, it's just going to not be very helpful. So, according to the physical work, the food should be accordingly, right? So, if you see, we have like demonized sugar and maida and palm oil, but there are people who are just surviving on these things, right? So if you go to the Himalayan region, if you go to the northeast especially, maida is very widely used there in terms of noodles, maggi noodles or any other instant noodles, and in terms of momos and parathas, the maida parotha, that is also very popular in those places. For the reason being, with less food, it gives a lot of energy. Or the other way, you have to have do a lot of physical work to burn that kind of food, right? The people living in those mountainous regions, they cannot survive by eating, the rice or chapati that the people of the city eat, right? So even like if you take the farmers, especially the farmers' food, what we say here in Karnataka, the South Karnataka, the farmers' food is ragi, right? They make ragi balls and the ragi roti, and they make a ragi ball which you dip in the curry and you swallow. So after eating ragi, whichever form, you cannot stay idle. You cannot sit in one place, right? You have to do a lot of physical work to burn that kind of food. So it's okay if you're able to like burn 1,000 calories and then you go and eat a 500 calorie pizza. That's absolutely fine. But if you are a desk jockey sitting in one place, right, not doing much of physical activity, and you're gulping a medium pizza and you're flushing it down with uh, soda, Pepsi, and the carbonated sugary drinks, then you are in a problem. So you have to understand what kind of work you do, what is your nature. Are you a very physically active person, or you are a person who's not doing a lot of physical activities? You're just a desk jockey. Your job is 8 hours to sit in front of a computer. Then this highly carbonated, I mean highly carbohydrates and sugar-rich food is not for you, right? If you're a desk jockey, any of the processed food is not for you. Right? Any of the processed food, just turn the label. You can see if it has maida. Maida comes with the different names. Okay, so since people are cautious and people started reading the labels, they change the wordplay. So instead of maida, they will call it as all-purpose flour. They will call it as refined wheat flour, etc., etc. But it's all maida, right? So it just being called with different names. Sugar, it's called as corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose. There are different names, but it all means sugar. And palm oil. Earlier they used to directly mention palm oil. Now they mention it as a vegetable oil. So which vegetable it is, right? So we're just hiding under the wordplay. So if the packet, if your food is coming from a packet, if your food is coming from a factory, right? And the packet has to turn it back. You read the ingredients, you read um, the dietary chart. So if the ingredients has maida, sugar, or palm oil in whatever the different names as their top two or three ingredients, you should not touch that. If you're a desk jockey, but if you're a person who burns 1,000 calories in a day, then you can maybe very well have it. But if you're a desk jockey, then you should stay away from such foods. So you have to find a middle ground, right? So one is an ideal place wherein you don't have such foods which are high carbohydrates, high sugar, and palm oil. That is the ideal case, but we will not be able to do that. Sometimes one or the other time we will not be able to do that. So that the other extreme is you're having those every day. So that is also not good, and you find a middle ground. So you say, okay, once in a week I will have a cheat day when I will have such foods. On all other time I will skip that. So this is how you have to find a balance. Otherwise what will happen is we continuously go for these carbohydrates and high sugar food and sedentary lifestyle. So all these are good recipes for a person being diabetic, right? So if you want to come out of the cycle, the first and foremost, in this channel we have discussed it multiple times. Eat only when you are hungry and chew the food nicely. So this is like the basic thumb rule that applies every time, right? For every case. So chew the food nicely, eat only when you're hungry, and your plate should be 50% fiber. So fiber includes raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, um, yeah, sorted vegetables. So any of the vegetables have more what you can say is a fiber content. Right? And in the protein, you can have the dals, pulses, cereals, and paneer, tofu. These are very good sources of protein. And the last 25% of your plate should be can be carbohydrates. Right? So I can just simply say avoid carbohydrates, but what will happen is one day will follow, few 2 days will follow, 3 days will follow, and again will fall back to a carb-rich diet, right? So to find a middle ground, to find a balance, 50% as far as possible, raw or boiled vegetables and seeds. There are pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. It can also be a good source of fiber and protein. So 50% fiber, 25% protein, and 25% carbs. So when you eat this kind of a food, it will be very helpful, and the glucose that is released in the body will be gradual, right? So why the white sugar, fructose, high corn syrup? So all these are different names for sugar and different variants of sugar, and they release glucose in the body very immediately, right? So that is okay. If you're doing a lot of physical work, you need that instant energy, then that is fine. But if you're not doing that, then you should cut down on the sugars. You should cut down on the maida. You can have once in a month is absolutely no problem. If you have once in a week, we have a small problem. But if you're having these foods every day, then it's a very big problem, right? And that's a recipe for being diabetic. So if you don't want to do that, chew your food nicely, eat only when you are hungry, and have a large portion of fiber, 25% of protein and 25% of carbohydrates. And this way, this can be reduced. In the future videos, we'll see what other things we can do to be um, more balanced life and healthy life, and how to avoid diabetic. Thank you.